All right, so I've come to the conclusion that I'm not good at everything. Anybody else figured that out already? That's good. I remember when I was hired as a youth pastor the first time, I was just grateful to have a job. And I didn't pay much attention to the writing on the page of what I was supposed to be doing. And I remember thinking that if I'm a youth pastor, I should be able to do what's on the page. That's why you hired me. But the more I looked at the writing on the page, the more I realized I'm not good at all of this. And the longer I've done this, the more I've realized that unless I have people to do ministry with me, I'm probably failing. Because I'm probably only really good at maybe 20% of my job, and I need about 80% help from other people. And what I've come to find out is that the dynamics of the leaders together will determine your outcome. The dynamics of your leaders will determine the outcome of your job. You can't actually do your job by yourself. You have to have other people. And one of the problems that we face as leaders is we're just looking for warm bodies sometimes. I just need a chaperone. I just need you to drive. I just need you to show up. I'm sick. Could you just teach a lesson? And we're looking for warm bodies. And one of the core things that all of us have deep inside us is this longing for significance. We all long for significance. We want to matter. And because we want to matter, we have to learn to treat people like they matter. I remember going to Redeemer Covenant Church, and within the first 2 weeks I met Larry. Larry walked kind of funny. He was 63 years old. I had no idea at the time he had MS. He couldn't feel his fingers. He couldn't feel his toes. He just looked real interesting. And then I found out something very unique about Larry. Larry's wife died 2 years ago on my birthday. And it's just this weird feeling of, why is this a coincidence? And you need to go talk to Larry. And you need to just share with him that you love him. And as I watched Larry at church, and I watched Larry interact during fellowship time, and I watched Larry worship, I had this deep sense inside me that Larry's lonely. That without Larry's wife, he lacks significance. And so I asked him, I said, Larry, how are you doing? I'm a young youth pastor. I don't really know anything. I don't really even know you, but I want to know how you're doing. And he simply said, life's hard. I miss my wife. My kids don't live here. I come to church. That's all I have. And I said, Larry, would you give your life to youth? I mean, you're 63. How about you come to youth group every week? And would you just be Grandpa Larry? We need a Grandpa Larry. You see, what they say is that if you're a youth pastor, you're going to have great success leading people younger than you and about 5 years older. Once you cross that 5-year mark, it gets tough. It gets hard to lead. And the dynamics of the leaders together are going to predict your outcome. So you have to start thinking through, who are we together? What do we do together? What do we talk about together? One of our favorite things to do as a staff was to go to a pizza place called Chicago Fire. It's in Folsom. It takes 60 minutes to get your food. So our staff team would go, our volunteers, and we'd sit down, we'd order a ton of pizza and garlic fries, and then we knew we had 60 minutes to talk about our students before the food started. So we have 1 hour staff meeting once a quarter. And my job was to figure out, how can I help our staff, our volunteers, make decisions without me? Because that's a dynamic that's important to me. I don't want to have to make every decision. I shouldn't have to make every decision. Our leaders should be empowered to be us when we're not there. And so we had one question, one framework that as we planned any event, as we planned youth group, we would say over and over. And the question was simply, what makes a good memory? What makes a good memory? As you're planning a youth talk, as you're planning a youth event, what is it that you intentionally want to have stick with students? And then the question for our leaders was simply this: if what you're about to do is going to cause a student to have a great memory of Jesus, of you, of our church, of youth group, just do it. You don't even have to ask me. I just want you to do it. And I remember sitting there with our staff team, and they had these funny looks on their face, and they're like, you know, Matt, sometimes we love planning all these events. Can we just do one for ourselves? Like, we're having so much fun together. Can we just leave the students at home? Some of us, as we dream about our ideal team, we have what I call discouraged dreaming. We look around at our church and we simply go, it's not possible. We don't have enough leaders. They're too old. They're too immature. Nobody likes junior hires. How's this going to work? Discouraged dreaming can turn everything around. Because until you get to the point where you're discouraged, you might not want to work so hard. To get out of discouraged dreaming, you have to realize that you have to work hard. That our job we can't do by ourselves. We need other people. You know who works really hard at getting to know you? The dentist. Have you thought about this? I hate the dentist. The dentist calls every 6 months and they say, Matt, it's time for your checkup. And I lie every 6 months. And I'm like, I'm out of town on that date. Can I come a month later? So I have 4 weeks to floss. Because I know that when I go, they're going to say, have you been flossing? And I'm just going, Have you been flossing long? I don't know, it depends on what you mean by long. I've been flossing, yes. But then they start asking me all these questions that they know the answers to already. They're saying things like, so how are your 3 kids doing? Hey, Caleb was playing basketball. How is that going? Hey, you guys are going to go on a trip to Yosemite. How is that? And I'm going, how come you know all about my life? You know all about my life because you know I hate it here. And you need to make a personal connection. You know what? There are people who think they are going to hate working with junior hires. There are people who think they are going to hate working with high school students. And it's not until you roll up your sleeves and you work. You work hard at studying the people around you. There's 4 letters on the screen the entire time we've been talking so far. L-E-A-D. Context is the stuff that surrounds. If we change one simple thing on this slide, go ahead, and it goes from L-E-A-D to his head was full of, the entire conversation changes. We can be sitting here talking about leading when really the stuff that surrounds a word doesn't even mean anything. His head was full of lead. Lead. The atomic symbol is what? PB. It's, I think, 82. I remembered it in high school because if you put lead in peanut butter, you die. So that was my little way of remembering these things. It works. Teach your kids. So context. Context is the stuff that surrounds. Context in the lives of your volunteers is the stuff that surrounds them. Do you know what they do for a living? Have you been in their home? Do you know their spouse? Have you bought a gift for their kids? Do you celebrate their birthdays? Larry was 63 when he started youth ministry. There are probably 5 students today who owe their lives to Larry because he talked them out of ending it. There's one student who grew up with both parents selling drugs, could not get to school, could not get to church. Larry took her to school every morning, picked her up from school in the afternoon, brought her to church and youth group every week, paid for her to go on everything. And when she graduated, he was the only one of her family that showed up. At 63. Why? Larry knew he was significant. He knew that he was changing lives. We studied Larry. We took notes on Larry. We learned all about Larry's kids. We learned all about Larry's life. Turns out, Larry has a crazy past. And Grandpa Larry, when he shares his story, makes students' eyes pop out because you don't expect your grandpa to have lived a life like that. So my encouragement to you is this: treat everyone like they matter. Help them develop and find and experience significance in your ministry. Because the dynamic of your leaders together will determine your outcome. And that is how you do your job. Thank you.